This time it was actually.
I
We
feel
got-
like
we got three
completely
boys in a
thrown
row
off.
there.
I just don't.
Yeah.
What is that? Feng shui? What is that called?
Yeah, your feng shui is
shui.
up.
It's all off now. See?
Sorry.
Wayne gets it. Feng shui. Yeah, we do a feng shui City of Aurora staff meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We grab pillows. What? Comfy chairs.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's my favorite.
I was looking for something, but now you, Lindsay, you thoroughly distracted me. Looking for my glasses.
We are live, so whenever you're ready, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, well, we'll give her
We have 2
a
minutes
couple
still.
more minutes.
You want your gavel?
No, I needed it during the truth and taxation, but I think we'll be civil here.
Yeah, it's not even within reach there, Mayor.
You get out of line.
Yeah, well, I,
You don't know.
He's
in
gonna
light
get
of
out.
our
Yeah, but
our training we
we'll
had,
switch it,
remember, we're
but
supposed
I
to have
did
something
not
that.
like, this is someone you count.
Did you participate in that active shooter training?
Well,
or
I can't imagine
No.
what
It was interesting,
Someone else
yeah.
has said otherwise,
Getting into the
so.
psychology of the individuals and things, yeah.
That's pretty close.
We're-
Yeah. I mean, I like Richard, but
Not that much.
he doesn't want you to open. Oh, sorry. Yeah, right?
Guess we better silence our phones, right?
Oh, gee, I didn't know mind that.
Mine's always silenced.
Is this snow supposed to continue for a while or what? I didn't even look.
As far as today, it's done.
It's done for today. Well, but then there's tomorrow, yeah.
I have the report from Jen from the library.
Okay, okay. It appears it's 6:30, and I'll call the meeting to order. And Deputy Clerk, could we have a roll call, please?
Grigor,
Here.
Cody,
Yes.
Tess,
Here.
Conkla,
Here.
Jobs.
Here.
All right, we have a full complement of the counselors, and can we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we proceed to our prepared agenda. The agenda item number 4 is the consent agenda. For those in the audience, this is the portion of the agenda which is marked in our cases with asterisks. And generally, unless a council member wishes to have any of those matters considered separately, we generally move for approval of them in block. And so councilors, first of all, is there any consent agenda item that you'd want to take out for further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve, is there support?
Support.
Support. Moved and supported to adopt the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, we've adopted our agenda. Deputy Clerk, is there anyone who's requested to appear other than on the screen there?
No.
No, all right. So then, moving to agenda item number 11, reports from staff members. We'll start, I guess, with our Deputy Clerk. Do you have a report?
So nothing much to report. Obviously, we are undergoing some staff changes right now. So Kimberly and myself have been quite busy getting everything ready. We did get some results for the truth and taxation meeting, so those will be seen on the agenda later on. Otherwise, we're just working through day to day and trying to stay afloat. So.
Well, we commend you for your efforts. It's always difficult
Yeah.
to work in a
Good thing we're
short-handed-
swimmers, right?
Yeah.
Very good. All right, let's see. I suppose City Attorney, any report?
Nothing from me, Mayor.
All right, Public Works Director Thuringer, a report?
Not a lot, but it appears the hockey rink is being flooded, so we should have open skating for everybody soon. We're currently working through a few problems at the water plant. Lost our control system due to some stray voltage that is yet to be identified. So at this time, we are running everything on manual. So that's about all I have. I mean, there's nothing else, but let's not forget Brian is part of the staff too.
Right, yeah. And I believe the library report's going to be presented by Councilor Hulkala. But in line with maybe the Public Works report, Bolton and Mank, Brian, do you have a report to kind of update us on what's been going on under that contract?
Oh, we can't hear you.
You're
Brian.
muted.
Nothing yet.
Can you?
Oh, is the R sound off? I don't know.
The TV says it's on mute.
Oh, gee.
It might be us.
Hold on, Brian. We're really tech savvy here.
No, it's
There you go. Try now, Brian.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear us?
Okay.
All right.
Yes, you guys are loud and clear, so, okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Nothing major on the engineering update. I'll go just through a few things that we've been working through, but nothing major here. So the first item is the wastewater treatment facility improvement project for the Mercury. As a reminder, there are plans and specs due to the MPCA by the end of January, and so we are continuing to work on developing them. We actually met with staff earlier today to go over progress on that plan set, and we're going to continue to progress through that. That will be sent in to MPCA to meet the deadline. As I mentioned to you before, this is not necessarily a bid set of plans and specs, but it is going in to meet the compliance schedule. And so this will be submitted. It doesn't have all the fine details in it, and we'll continue to work through that. And again, this project is going to be dependent on funding. And so at the very earliest, it would bid this time next year, assuming that the necessary funding is in place for this project. If there's any questions on that project, otherwise I'll just continue down my list here.
The councilors?
Okay.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Next then, the capital improvement plan. So we did, I think it was just before the last council meeting actually, so I may be updated, but there was a drive around town looking at the infrastructure and documenting all those projects. We've accumulated lots and lots of old drawings from the city, and those have been scanned in, so we now have electronic files of the old plan sets. And our next steps are to sift through all that information and come up with a preliminary list of improvement projects, and then bring that back to city staff for further discussion on those project lists. So I'm thinking that'll probably happen in January. And once we go through a couple iterations of that, we would bring a draft plan to the city council in the first quarter of 2023. That's the capital improvement plan. The GIS system, we've initiated the actual GIS system, but the actual data collection for that will occur next summer when we have good access to everything. So that system will be available to help create figures and things for the capital improvement plan. But the actual data collection points where we field verify, that'll all happen next summer. So not too much movement on that item. Any questions on the capital improvement plan or the GIS system?
Councilors, any questions? Apparently none. So,
Okay. And then the final item just to update the council on is we do have a meeting scheduled with the county. There is an upcoming county project that they are scheduling for 2027. But we are starting to have initial conversations about what city utilities will be affected and what needs to be incorporated into the county's plan. So we have a meeting set up with the county for next Monday. This is the first meeting to kind of discuss the project. And basically what we're doing is we want to keep the city's interest in mind as the county road is redone. And so, is there any utilities, is there lighting, signage, all these type of things that would be of the city's interest. So we have a meeting with the county next Monday. So those are the things I had on my list. But if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to discuss anything with the council.
So just a question on the county project. Is that the project to redo 3rd Avenue and Main Street?
On the top of my mind, I don't even know the full extent of that project
Director
yet.
Thuringer's nodding his head that is the deal. And
Okay.
I guess the one comment, by the way, and I assume it's gotten to you earlier, was that there's some sentiment in the community to get more than just an overlay, but an actual reconstruction that probably feeds into what you were alluding to, namely the capital or the infrastructure that would be within that right of way too, right? Director Thuringer?
Yeah, we have some water line under 3rd Avenue that would need to be addressed because it's at its expected life now. It's about 70 years old. So it would not be wise to, even if it's just an overlay, to put it over the top of that. Other than that, the city of Aurora does not have a lot of utilities underneath the 2 main roads, which was a good design in the beginning. But Ryan will be briefed on everything we have. Some of the crossings have been done in prior projects, so there's not a lot for us, but I think what's important, and I won't be here to see that through, but you really need to push for lighting, because the street lights are in very rough shape. Some of them are starting to lean, and the wiring for sure underneath them should be redone, so that's something to keep in mind.
Would the boulevard areas be redone in any significant way in addition to the roadway itself?
I would assume they would do the sidewalks, because that would be in the right of way, so, you take 33 feet from center line, you just kind of envision that as you drive down. Anything within that should be replaced or repaired. I would hope that they would redo the sidewalks at this time.
Councilors, any other questions? Brian? Just for the audience's sake, Brian is with Bolton and Make engineering firm, and for those who may not have followed the council meetings, the council recently retained on a monthly advisory basis and on certain projects the services of Bolton and Make. And so, in a way, this is an extended contract staff. So just so the audience is aware of why Brian Golden is on the session here. So, any further comments, Brian? Or?
No, I think at the next council meeting, we can bring back some of the from that meeting, what came of it, a little bit more of the project scope, and we can give you an update on that at the next meeting. So.
All right, very good. Thanks so much. Let's see, Councilor Honkla, do you want to give the library report?
Yes.
Yeah.
Jen Baker, our new librarian, has presented this library report. This is her words, and I read it for the council and the audience. Hello all. The library has been doing well with the new transitions. Thank you all who came to the transition celebration and to the mayor for honoring Paula by declaring November 22nd, 2022 Paula Chapman Day. We have been handing out our latest take and share kits. The November 3D models and puzzles were very exciting for our patrons, and we distributed all 30 kits within 6 days. For December, we are lucky enough to have Mary Malari design and put together mitten pocket kits for us to give out, and the patrons love them. For the end of the month, Arrowhead Library System, along with 123 Art Studio, will be distributing acrylic painting kits. Please pick one up from the 12th through the end of the month or while supplies last. We also ask that you bring one of your finished projects to the library for a mini art show. Let's show off our talents. The library is currently seeking a new library board member. If you are interested, please join our meeting January 16th at 6 p.m. or contact Jen at the library. And finally, the application period for the circulation clerk is open until Friday, December 9th. Submit your letter of interest, references, and resume to the library if you'd like to join our team. The library would like to wish you all a safe and happy holiday season. These again were Jen Baker's words.
Very good. Thank you for that report. I believe all department heads have spoken, and we move to the next part of the agenda, which is reports from counselors. And I think traditionally we kind of go from our junior member, which in this case I believe is Counselor Hess.
I don't have too much. I just would like to say thank you to Lindsay and Kim for all the work that they did last week. We threw kind of 2 extra meetings and a bunch of work on them, and they were troopers and got it all done for us. I appreciate it. The only other thing I would like to bring up is I would like to see the city council, the HRA, and the owners of supposedly the grocery store have a meeting. We got to get off dead center on this. We can't keep supporting him. He's got no skin in the game. We can't keep paying his bills. So I would like to see a meeting between the 3 parties.
Duly noted, yeah, and timely. Yeah, so.
Because we're getting in the heating season again, and why should the city taxpayers be footing the bill for him? I don't believe that's been going on for 3 years. It's time to come to a head. Either get in the game or get out. That's all I got.
All right, thank you. Councilor Godey, you're leave next, and since you're on the HRA, maybe you can respond to some of Councilor Hess's concerns.
Yeah, I agree. It's really frustrating. We're just sitting, not going forward or backward. It never changes. And now this last month, there was some problems with the heating system, and Al Hodnick did a bunch of research online, looked up old manuals, found some fixes. He repaired some plumbing, and he replaced 2 circulating pumps. He really has stepped up to do above and beyond what he needs to keep that building heated, and we're lucky that he does that. He had to do quite a bit of work, and he paid for the pumps, and then we reimbursed him for the pumps. But that building's sucking money like crazy, and something that needs to change.
I've seen him in action, and it's incredible the depth of knowledge he has of the operating systems in that building.
Yeah, no, he's taken that under his wing. But really, it's been a very busy month, but that's all I want to talk about.
Thank you, Councilor Godey. Let's see. I think Councilor Honkala? Or,
The fire department is having their annual Santa run on December 16th. So you can look up their Facebook page, Friends of the Aurora Fire Department, or it is also posted in the East Range Times. So December 16th, 5:30, watch for Santa around town. December 17th, the Aurora Chamber of Commerce is hosting the Holiday Heritage at the Community Center. And there'll be vendors and food, and we're going to kick off the event with a 10 a.m. parade on Main Street. So I hope that I'll see you all on Main Street watching all those great floats go by and all those very adventurous people that will sit on a float in the middle of December. That's fun. The parks doesn't meet very often during the winter. I'm glad to see that the rink is starting to get ice, and I appreciate David Coivisto's efforts to flooding the rink and getting it out there. The residents are asking about it and want to get out there and start skating, so that's good to see. That's all I have, Mayor.
very good, thank you.
Okay.
Councilor Joss?
For planning and zoning, not much is really happening with the weather. We're kind of limited with what we can do. There's been a few building permits that improvement permits that we have allowed. We have the annual meeting for the Rams coming up. Again, I want to echo what Richard said. Thanks to Lindsay and Kimberly for really stepping up in the office these last few weeks. I want to remind everybody we have the Holiday Heritage Fest lighting contest. Get your applications in because I think we only have 7 or 8 applications in, so you have really good odds of winning if you come in and fill up an application. So, one question that we had come through, maybe Wayne can help us, there's been some timber removal in Pine Grove Park, or somebody's removing some timber in Pine Grove. Can you enlighten us so I can pass it along?
I could refer to a fellow park committee member.
Okay.
That was a park committee decision.
Okay,
to remove some of those trees that are, several of the centers were rotted out of
okay,
them. And there was concerns of them falling down towards the splash pad.
okay,
So, yeah, that was contracted out and removed.
perfect. Okay.
That was in the minutes for the last part,
Okay.
that was probably
Okay.
several months ago now. but-
September, probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
It was in the
Yeah, I think
minutes.
I missed that one. So, thank you. And that is it, Mayor, sorry.
Very good, thank you. Councilor Joss suffering under some limitations on speech. Just, I was thinking, one thing that, this is the first televised meeting, I believe, since the election, and should certainly, for the audience's sake, welcome Councilors Cody and Hess, who were elected in that election. And sort of kudos and salutes to our local citizens. We had like a 67 or 68% turnout, which was really good for kind of an off-year election, and it exceeded the statewide average turnout. And congratulations to all of you. In the interim, let's see, there was a snapshot publication that was inserted into the East Range, formerly Shopper, now East Range Times, which tried to provide an update on a lot of things that are going on in the city, but we have a very active city, and there are some things obviously that are omitted, but hope you get a chance to at least review those things. Just in relation to the library, I think our thoughts go out to Jen Baker and her family. Let's see, her daughter Zoe, right, is undergoing
Yeah.
some surgery, and so wish them well on that matter. The water board, the mood of the board is very optimistic about with the massive state surplus, the unique triumvirate of one party being in control of both the legislature and the governor position, and the efforts that our lobbyists and engineering firm have made in the past, trying to get the last big chunks of funding from the state for that project, which could be up to an $8 million grant. In addition to that, the project team, the board, is planning to appear before the IRRB, or I'm sorry, it's the Department of Iron Range Resources and Rehabilitation Board later this month to request, in conjunction with the town of White, a grant of $1 million for each of those two entities, payable over 2 different fiscal years, which, combined with the other commitments and hopefully that state grant, would finally fund the project to enable it to go forward and out for bid. We're still working on some easement right-of-ways, and there's some other collateral projects that are associated with that. But that's essentially my report. All right, moving then to the agenda under old business. The perennial item of the non-union employment agreement is up, and we have our city attorney, Mitch Brunfeld, here, who's prepared what we call, I guess, in the document development, a clean version, right? That reflects a number of requests that the council had and a number of suggestions that you had, council. Is that right?
Right, Mayor and Council, just I had prepared, based upon our discussion in the closed session, I went ahead and prepared kind of a more of a fundamental, kind of a pared down, basic agreement. And I think what I've put in here captures the intent of what we discussed. But understanding, I mean, folks would have just got it this afternoon. I think what probably, did you have a committee that was meeting with the non-union folks? So I think what maybe you want to.
You and Dave Warshak, and then when Dave left, it was me.
Yes, right.
So maybe what you want to do is take this, I think it's accurate based upon the discussions we had in closed session. What I would recommend you do is have your committee take a look at it, and then, share it with the employees. Maybe have, if you can find time to have maybe one sit-down meeting with them to go through it, And then I think it's probably ready to go. I mean, you could act on it tonight, you could approve it tonight, subject to, you know, confirmation from the committee that it's accurate and that you wanna have one final, you know, meeting with the employees to go through it, and hopefully then everything would be ready to go by year end. So you could actually approve it tonight, authorize signatures contingent on those things happening.
Just, since I haven't reviewed it, just to clarify that Counselor Honkman and I had identified a couple points. In particular, one had to do with whether or not parental time off for school visits was going to be paid or not, and I think we had indicated that we didn't think that should be paid, but that the time off for those should be allowed.
Yeah, well, that's school conference and activities leave. So
Yeah.
that's a state statute, actually. There's a law on that, and when I was putting that together, my recollection of the state statute is that it typically is time off. It's time off the city has to allow under statute. It is time off without pay.
Yes.
You know, obviously, the employee could substitute at their wish, they could substitute comp time or vacation time if they want to. But
Sure.
you do have to allow it off without pay.
And then,
And that's 16 hours during the year for school conference and activities leave.
yeah, we realized we
Yeah.
both wanted to and were required to leave it in there, but
So
not
and that's in there.
not as a
Yeah.
special pay.
That's in there, I'd say.
It's in there.
Yep.
Yeah, all right. Then the other area I think we focused on was in terms of the wage scale.
Yeah.
And does that reflect what I think we came up with was $1 per hour per year?
That's what I believe it does.
That's
I
what we
just,
decided. That was
Yeah.
their proposal,
Yeah.
and we
Right.
agreed to that.
Yeah.
so what I would recommend though is I just want to, if the committee could just go through the numbers and just make sure it's accurate. I believe it is, but, you know.
So just in the position that it's in then, if we go through it and find that it accurately reflects what we feel our council members want, then we would essentially be, authorizing its submission to the non-union employees for comment, right? It's not,
Yeah.
it's not a take it or leave it, right? We're just basically saying this is our offer, is that?
Yeah, this is what we've put together, and you'd give it to them and let them have feedback, and then I think you could do that legwork kind of behind the scenes. If you want to have it brought back to the next meeting agenda for a final approval, if there needs to be any tweaks to this document. I mean, I think we're
I
awfully
would
close.
like to have a sit-down with
Yeah.
the staff
Right.
and get their eyes on it. Have
Yeah.
you read it? Have you seen this document that he's speaking
No.
on? So I prefer that before
Yeah.
we approve it, that they get their eyes on it and look it over and prove what's been corrected or changed from
Yeah.
the previous.
So maybe we could
This
make
week.
sure they get it.
Yes.
And you and I could, as the
Yeah.
committee, essentially meet with the non-union employees and then be in a position to come back to the council.
And approve it, period.
Yep,
Right.
yep, that's the best approach.
Beautiful.
Are we thinking bring it to the December 20th meeting, or are we thinking?
Yes,
Yeah.
let's get it
Yeah.
approved
Yeah.
prior to the end of the month.
Yeah.
Yeah, it needs to be done before the end of the month.
Counselors, any other thoughts or comments on that?
Well, I would be in favor of approving it now based on your meeting with them, just like the attorney mentioned.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have some room. I mean, as long as you have another meeting scheduled in a couple of weeks, you got some time to, you know, go through the document, make sure all the details are correct, and then get the feedback of the employees. There might be a few things in there that might have to be slightly adjusted. I think it's awfully close, but there might be a couple things in there that just have to be adjusted. And then you will have a finished product that will be, I think, truly ready for approval when you come to your next meeting in a couple of weeks.
So to facilitate that process, could you, since you're the originator of the document, could you make sure that it gets to
Yeah.
the city administrator's office?
Yeah, I'll just
and
forward it on.
distribution, they can take care of that to the non-union
Right,
employees?
right, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't know if we need a
Yeah, I don't
motion.
think, I just make sure that it's on the next meeting agenda.
All right.
Yep.
And then
All right, any further questions, comments? If not, thanks for the work you've put in on that, and it will be a huge relief to everyone, I'm sure, if we can finally finalize this agreement there. Moving on then, that concludes our old business. Moving on to new business under 17.1. Just setting the regular and special council meeting dates for 2023. Deputy Clerk Luke, you've gone over the calendar, essentially noticed those dates that need to be varied from our normal Tuesday meeting, right?
Yep, so this is actually done mostly by Kimberly, the accounting clerk, just based on holidays, weekends, just making sure we get our ducks in a row and we are prepared for each meeting. So these are adjusted accordingly.
Okay. And when the first meeting of the month would fall on the first, one of the considerations is to move it to like a Thursday afterwards, right?
Due to a holiday, yes, the
Yeah.
holiday right the day before, so yes,
Yeah,
to that
and,
Thursday.
To allow the staff time to process the
Correct. Yep.
month-end things. All right, is there a motion to approve the proposed city council meeting date calendar for 2023?
So
Moved and support, moved and supported. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we have our calendar for 2023. Agenda item 17.2, the health insurance premiums. Now, I did not make a copy of this. Is this still in the agenda?
It is, yes. So actually, when I finally finalized the minutes, you guys actually approved this last time, but just so we all see, it is going up, so we don't have to make a motion on this at all. You did approve it at November's meeting, so.
So
And it
no-
is the only insurance that's going up, which is a good thing. So dental stayed the same, vision stayed the same,
So
so.
no surprises. All right, very good. All right, no action required on that. 17.3, waiving of the community center rental fee for the Massabi East Girl Scouts Graham Cracker House Building event that's scheduled apparently for December 10th. They're asking for a waiver of the usual fees on that, and any further explanation?
No, they've utilized it in the past, but it was before January 1st of this year, so rules were different back then. So they were just asking to use it this December as well.
All right, is there a motion to
I'll
waive?
make, I'll second then.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to waive the fees for them and for that event. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Well, I'm sure the youth of the community will look forward to that. It's let's see, 17.4 is the writing off of past due utility bill in the amount of $329.81 owed for the sale of property at 29 West 3rd Avenue North. City Clerk, any additional comments? I guess we've done this before and
Yeah, so Kimberly, if you'd like to chime in, feel free, but this one here actually was, this was a house, they were closed on the property, and then unfortunately the property owner, the seller of the property, was actually told he would be then just basically a word of mouth, go finish off your final bill. He never came in, now we can't get hold of him, there's no voicemail, so this unfortunately has been sitting for quite some time, and instead of writing it off on the new owner's bill, we are just asking to have it written off because it doesn't fall on the new owner. They've done everything right.
Why would the realtor fix that?
Right?
Counselor
I don't
Drops
know.
is our
I
resident
personally
realtor.
would, I would personally ask the title company to get a
Yes.
hold, they should have
They
the
did.
information, so the
Multiple
title company
times.
didn't have.
Multiple
So
times.
I reached out to the title company and they indicated to me that they had the seller sign a document indicating that he would go in and pay the final utility bill after it was generated, and he has not showed up. And they're out. They were actually pretty offended that I even reached out to them, so.
Well, then why wouldn't the money then come from, why would he get the sale money without getting the money reduced, or subtracted from
Because-
that?
Because the city of Aurora does not do any prorations of city bills. That is why a lot of title companies want to have the city do proration of city bills so it can be taken out of proceeds of sales. But I know that there's a few cities around here that don't do that. They don't split bills up or anything like that. So
That
it
is not the case for this one. This is
Okay.
actually a commercial account, so all it needed was a final meter read, which I
Mhm.
had.
Okay.
And could have generated that bill that morning so that the title company could have had it.
Mhm.
So this is a little bit different. I know you're referring to residential properties, and you're right, we don't prorate,
Mhm.
but this is not the case with this one.
So the title company didn't have the full readout of the bill?
They did not request it, they didn't request the final amount.
Because I know most of them know that cities now don't do it, so they don't even request anymore. A lot of them do. So maybe
Yeah.
I can put in words in their ears that maybe you should do for commercial.
Commercial,
I mean-
yes, but, this was a problem account prior to the sale, which
Got
is
it.
why,
Okay.
rather than take my time and effort into trying to wait and reach out to this person, which I've done multiple times, it's $329 and like, get it off the books. Write it off, be done.
Fortunately,
We
city
can move on.
City checked all their boxes. We have the search assessment in hand that says, please check back prior to closing to get final meter read, and we didn't receive that, and all of a sudden we got a new owner coming in to sign a form saying they moved in. So again, we don't feel it's their fault. It is, ultimately title company's fault, but he's not going to pay for it, and
And again, they did send me the document where he signed indicating he would come in and take care of the final bill.
But you
So
never-
if we could find him, we could put.
And I have asked,
Can we put a lien or judgment against him? It sits with him for 10 years, so if he goes and buys anything else, he's gotta pay this before he can purchase anything else.
and again, my question becomes, is it worth it?
Yeah.
That's
Sure it's not.
really the question that it comes down to at this
Okay.
point in time.
It's unfortunate, I think, for the point that Councilor Lonkla made, that it was the seller obviously had cash in hand,
Right.
which
Right.
suddenly has disappeared from the community and.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I would caution action on this as not following it up because you're setting precedent.
Absolutely,
Mm-hmm. So
absolutely.
how many people will vacate then?
Right.
Because,
So you feel maybe it
I
would
would-
better
I
to
would
hold
go
on to
through-
it for a while?
I understand that it's probably not worth the time to recoup that amount of money, but it is precedent that I would feel would be important because you have viewers of this meeting and then now you have set a precedent.
yeah,
right.
and there are people out there, you and I both know, that there could be bigger bills down the road.
How, Mitch, any legal advice on what we could do as a city to get the funds besides writing off?
Well, you have to sue the small claims court,
I mean, but.
but you're not gonna
Kimberly's-
get the money.
No.
I mean, you're gonna get a judgment against him. And then, that judgment would be docketed and would be on the books for,
10 years.
like
10
Councilor
years.
Joe said, it would be on the books for 10 years. If he did later have real estate that he was selling, they would do a title search on him, and if there were any outstanding judgments against him and against his name, then he would have to satisfy that judgment in order to sell any subsequent real estate. That would be the only legal recourse he would
Sell
have.
or buy,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we'd have to invest for
So-
the filing fees and.
Right.
I was
You
just
get your
saying-
filing fee back, the filing fee's
Yeah.
80 or 90 bucks for small claims court, and
You could add that on.
then that would be added to the
But
judgment.
to
Yeah.
Kimberly's
Yeah.
point, we're throwing good money after bad and,
Yeah.
But it's there for 10 years, and it could be,
Yeah.
I mean, you never know, it could come in 5 years from now.
The small claims court process is, it's just a single page form that you fill out, and then you mail it in, and then they'll mail it to the, if you have a location for this person. And then typically with those types of small claims court proceedings, the claimant, which would be the city, would get a default judgment for the amount plus the filing fee. And then it would be a judgment on the books.
do we have to pay any additional fee to get it filed with the court for the judgment?
No, in small claims court, I think it's
automatic.
automatically docketed, yeah.
Do we have to find, so that's the other problem is, I don't know where he is.
No, you don't have to find him. Yeah, the title company will find him when he goes to buy or sell something.
Well, you do, there may be, I mean, as far as serving the conciliation court paperwork on him, that you probably would have to try to find some last known address, or if there was a forwarding address, that's probably gonna have to be included in the paperwork. So that might be more of, I mean, really filling out the conciliation court paperwork is not a time-consuming process. What might be time-consuming is to try to find his whereabouts so that the paperwork can be.
Could we use his residence or a business that was sold? That's his last known address as far as we know,
And they
right?
always have to give a forwarding address anyway. Always, you always have to give a forwarding address when you sell a residence.
So
So
if we
he had to
send,
give it to the
He
title
had to give it
company?
to the title company. Yep, they
So
always
if
ask
we
for
were
a
to
forwarding address.
send the small claims court papers to that address which he gave, that might be adequate for service?
It might be, yeah, yeah. The court will decide that, I mean, as far as whether adequate attempts at service have been made, if he doesn't show up, but, you know.
think it might be appropriate, in light of the discussion, to have a motion to deny the request to erase it and authorize the city staff to pursue a small claims court action. Is that?
I'll make that motion.
It's moved. Support?
I'll support it.
Moved and supported. Further discussion on that? Council Hess? No? All right, if no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so we will find out more about that. Moving to 17.5, write-off of certain city-owned utility bills. We have the agenda item memo, explains the two parcels in question. Deputy Clerk Luke, you had some additional explanation of where this was and.
So these are some of the sites that we actually bought to clean up. So these are past utility bills, we're just hoping now that we own them, we can get those written off.
All right, is there a motion to approve writing off those amounts?
I'll make a motion.
Move, support.
Support.
Right, seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, they're written off. Let's see. The 17.6 is the write-off of some charges that are associated with a state-owned property that's now privately owned. And apparently our city attorney, Mike Carney, recommended a write-off for conversation and council actions in 2022 for the similar situation. So the request is to write off $1,180. Councilor Broomfield, any insights on this or anything? I assume if your colleague, Mr. Carney.
You want me to counter Mike Carney's recommendation?
Well, we were going to challenge you.
He's a senior lawyer, I think I'll defer.
Yeah.
Leave a fib,
Yeah. So,
Yeah, no, I don't, actually,
All right.
Mayor, I really am not familiar with the background of this.
Sure.
I mean, I would.
I didn't mean to put you on the
Yeah, no,
spot.
if Mike made that recommendation, I'm sure he had good reason for it.
It's been moved to grant the request to write that off. Is there support?
I'll support for discussion.
Supported for discussion, all right. Now, Councilor Joss,
So
discussion?
my question on this, so it was a state-owned parcel, somebody bought it private. I'm assuming they bought it in auction. Am I correct in assuming that?
I can't say that for sure.
So if they bought it in auction, I would guess that they probably assumed all assessments.
They don't assume the special assessments, so the state practice says that if a property has been state-owned, well, those special assessments have been made, and then becomes privately owned, the special assessment should be written off.
Okay.
That
Okay,
is
that's
what
what I
Mike
understand.
quoted to me in August. You guys approved 2 other parcels that we did the same thing for in August.
Also the same with the other ones. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure.
All right, well, could clarify that on the record then. Is there, I believe we have a motion and support on it. Any further discussion or questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. We write off those special assessments. Turning to 17.7 is Resolution 2022-40, adopting polling places for the 2023 election, right? And let's see, there was an update on this, is that correct? I didn't get the revised packet. But,
Yep, just a little typo there, so we just corrected that, so now we got,
All right. So it's
attorney
essentially,
approval. Yep.
for the voters that are listening, the polling place would be the same as we've used in the past. Right, all right, so it's not a change of that. Is there a motion to approve the designation of that polling place?
So moved.
Move, support?
Support.
Moved and
Sorry.
supported. All right. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Polling place is established. 17.8, Resolution 2022-41, approving application to the IRRB Community Infrastructure Program. This is related to the comment that I made under the mayoral comments, namely that the town of White and the city are envisioned to be applying to the IRRB for consideration at their meeting on December 21st of grants in the amount of $1 million per entity. In other words, $1 million for the town, $1 million for the,
It was 500,000 for the town and 500,000 for the city, but the recommendation then from Mike Larson was only the city does it because we are the fiscal agent. So $1 million is the total amount.
all right.
And on behalf of the town of White and the city.
I was just trying to emphasize, at least the water board's understanding of this is that we are requesting that grant now out of this state fiscal year, but also a commitment from the IRRB board that a similar grant will be given next year, because, yeah, so that anyway is part of the plan, but I appreciate the county clerk's clarification that this is simply an application for the $1 million, and it's made by the city on behalf of two entities. Is that correct? All right. Well, knowing the facts around that, I'll move approval. Is there support?
Second.
That's moved and supported. Further discussion? All right, if not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Moving to 17.9, Resolution 2022-42, adopting the 2022 property tax levy. This is a matter that we've considered initially in September to set our preliminary levy, and the decision of the council at that time was to set it at 9%, realizing that that's an amount which under no circumstances could be exceeded, and which then provided the basis for the Truth in Taxation meeting, which was held on November 30th, which a number of citizens appeared at. And the purpose of this item on the agenda tonight is to either confirm and certify that levy, or modify it to any amount under 9%. So, see, I have some concerns about it that I want to express, but I don't know. I wonder if we shouldn't have some discussion beforehand. Would you, any objection, councils, if I express my opinions, or do any other councilors want to go first?
Go ahead. I'm okay with you going first, Doug.
All right. All right, well, my sense was that I think the council acted very prudently in September to set the levy at 9%, given what at that time were even more uncertain waters out there in terms of inflation. We were faced with exceptionally high gas prices. We didn't know what the outcome of the election would be, and we hadn't had the benefit of public input at the Truth in Taxation meeting. So my sense is that I would like to go lower, and the reasons being, well, first of all, I was enormously impressed by the deep emotion of the people who appeared at the Truth in Taxation meeting, that not solely due to our levy, but for a combination of real property tax related matters, some of them were seriously feeling they were going to be taxed out of their homes. And I know that's not unique to our community, but it's a consideration there anyway, that people have to balance out their rising property values with their ability to pay on sometimes very fixed incomes. I get the sense that, I don't want to be sarcastic, but the precipitous drop in gas prices after the election has been encouraging, I think, to enable or anticipate that those costs will not be as excessive as we might have envisioned in September. I follow politics enough and the legislature enough to know that there was a figure actually thrown out today or something, wasn't it, like $17 billion or?
17.6.
$17.6 billion in the state coffers. And the matters that were left unaddressed at the end of last session included a very considerable increase in our local government aids, which are state aids to the cities. And realizing that anything that one relies upon or banks on from the legislature is no sure thing. My sense is that in the course of this legislative session, that we and others, small cities, will be benefiting from a potentially substantial increase in local government aids. The availability of which would go into our budget, we can't anticipate it at this time. We can't put it in there in the bank, so to speak. But it is, I think, a very real consideration, a very real possibility. They have to do something with that money. And the plan that wasn't adopted would, again, increase local government aids, and there may be other forms of state assistance that could be forthcoming too. I don't see a scenario under which the city would in any way get less from the state than it's had in the past, and I see more likely than not that there'd be more. So trying to take into consideration all of those factors, I personally think, and if I recall correctly, and I don't have the chart that you just distributed, right, that the prior city clerk had prepared various scenarios at various levels to indicate where we would come in terms of breaking even or possibly having a slight unbudgeted surplus as we went forward. And at 9%, we felt comfortable that that would give it a very adequate cushion, I think, as a council at that time. I think in light of all these other circumstances, I'd like to personally move that we reduce the levy to 6%, which would still give us a projected surplus of $38,581, but at least would stand as some kind of a indication to our citizens that we feel they're paying. I don't know. So that's my motion. I don't know if there's support. So. All right, if there's, I don't see any support. Is there an alternative motion of how to proceed on this matter?
You should call 3 times for support.
Call 3 times, okay. I'll call again for
Just a
support.
technicality.
All right,
Yeah.
well, appreciate having legal counsel to
Yeah.
advise us. All right, so calling for the second time, is there support? All right, if not, third time, is there support? All right, so the motion fails for lack of a second. Is there
I'd make a motion to put it up, lower it from 9 to 7%.
7%? Is there support for that?
I'd support that.
All right, moved and supported to drop it down to 7%. Is there, I appreciate that. Again, I think in my mind, it's showing some sensitivity.
Well, we're looking at gas prices dropping, but diesel fuel hasn't dropped hardly anything.
Yeah.
And we use more diesel than we do gas as far as the city, right, Wayne?
Correct.
Right.
So there hasn't been much fluctuation in diesel, and I think diesel's gonna go up more than it's gonna go
Yeah.
down.
All right.
So I don't wanna get us caught short here either, so.
All right. So, councilors, further discussion on the motion? It's been moved and supported to move the levy to 7%. All right, I'm seeing none then. Motion on the table is to reduce the levy to 7%. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so our levy has been reduced to 7%, and then that, I assume, is all the action we need to take to actually certify it to the taxing authorities?
We'll have to make a different form.
I was just gonna say, I'll have to come in and sign tomorrow, that's all.
All right. Excuse me. Turning then to agenda item 1710, resolution 2022-43, approving ordinance number 93, amending the nuisance penalty. The city clerk, you provided a revised version of that, is that correct?
Correct, yep. So actually, Jordan Horonski, blight officer, who's been doing a fabulous job, that he's also the blight officer in Hoyt Lakes, for those who are not familiar. And Hoyt Lakes has administrative penalties, blight administrative penalties, which we do not. So this was actually something he brought up almost immediately. So it's been in the works for quite some time. I've spoken with Mike now numerous times on this, and it does follow exactly how Hoyt Lakes is written, but just with our ordinance subdivisions in there instead. So this is exactly what they have, so it'll be easy for Jordan to transition in.
All right, well, I assume their experiences have indicated that it's a useful tool in the enforcement arsenal.
Yeah, I will, and I, speaking on the city, a regular city attorney in White Lakes, and after they made this change in their ordinance, it really did improve their enforcement mechanism over there. They got pretty aggressive about it, and I think they did a lot of good things in White Lakes with cleaning up blight nuisances, and have continued to do so. I think this gave them, some real strong ability to do that. So I think it's a good change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
this helps for towing's sake as well, so cost-wise, to get
Yep.
the city cleaned up, this really does weigh, I mean, it's costs and expenses that will be paid for now.
All right, is there a motion to approve
I'll
then the,
make the motion.
it's moved and support?
Support.
Moved and supported to amend the nuisance penalty for some of our blight instances. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that's adopted, and just commending Jordan again. It's been wonderful to have him, and I assume Councilor Hess, you worked more directly with him.
We have just,
Yes, so, and he just has, realizing the enormity of the task before him, I think has made substantial headway. Yeah. So, stay tuned, citizens, we're working on the blight problem. Yeah.
next spring, we're gonna hit it hard.
Yes,
Yeah.
yep.
So, all right,
Especially
turning to agenda item 2022-44, approving ordinance number 94, amending the Sunday liquor sales. You have an altered version of that in your packet, Deputy Clerk.
Yep, so just on this one, Mitch, if you want to touch base as well, this is actually something Hoyt Lakes did, I think, a month or two ago now. And this just fell in line with the Vikings actually played over in London. So it actually fell 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. And most of the bars weren't able to open because both cities had ordinances that didn't follow exactly what state statute says. Ours were a bit more restricted. So ours said 10 a.m. Theirs, I believe, said 11 a.m. So we are just falling in line with Minnesota state statute, which does say 8 a.m. And this is just in case there's ever a game at 8 a.m. ever again, which we're hoping so because it was a very fun game in London. So
The Vikings in London ordinance.
yes, exactly.
Let it be your
Now
afternoon.
it's come up in two cities.
Let it be known.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
I'll make a motion to approve this.
Motion to approve, support.
support.
Moved and supported, further discussion, if not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Property deed, the potential corrective sale of property, I don't have anything
don't have
in
anything.
that.
There's nothing in the packet. This is actually something Mike was going to bring forth, but he's actually in Evelyn tonight. He's unfortunately needed over there, so he's unable. So he actually just said table this. He'll bring it up next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, we had to do some major shuffling for city attorney coverage tonight, so.
Well, we appreciate the
So
effort.
Yeah.
he's in Evlith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, turning then to the last item is the hiring committee report. Just reminding you, the hiring committee had been envisioned to be a Councilor Godey, myself, and Jody Knaus from the town of White. And there was one meeting at which all three of us were present, the committee meeting. And then Clerk Knaus, or Administrator Knaus, indicated she didn't think it was appropriate for her to continue. And we could proceed to ask the council for some other direction on that, but actually our committee has a report that we'd like to make to the council, and it's my understanding this should be and can be a public meeting at this point. Is that correct?
Right, Mayor, for something like this, there's really no provision in the open meeting law that would allow a council to go into closed session for something like this, so the discussion does have, the recommendation of the committee does have to be brought forward to the full council in open session, and it's a public matter, so you certainly can discuss it and debate it in open session.
Well, Councilor Cody and I have spent some considerable time on going over these things, but I think it's helpful for the record to just kind of relate a little bit of recalling some of the actions the council's taken and the actions the committee's taken in the interim. Obviously, when City Clerk Dickinson submitted her resignation, it triggered starting some actions to find a replacement for her. I think there have been a couple actions of the council and renditions on the advertisement for the position, which we eventually expanded to seeking applicants for either a city clerk or city administrator position, and the most recent deadline for those is this Friday, December 9th. All right, in the interim there, the committee met, and we had applications from 2 employees with interest for the position. One of those applications came within a 5-day window following the posting of the position. The other one came after that time. We have not, as a committee, seen or reviewed any additional applications that might have come into the city administration offices, but we have considered the relative qualifications of the 2 what we regard as internal applicants for the position, and we realize there's an issue that needs to be addressed that has to do with presenting to you a recommendation today before the December 9th deadline. But we've consulted with, well, first of all, we took very seriously each application and used a scoring chart that's been used in other employment situations that take the various established qualifications that we posted for the position and compared the training and experience of the applicants on that scoring grid. And when we did that, we found that one of the internal applicants was exceptionally qualified for the position, and there's nothing that's come to our attention that they would anyway change that conclusion. So those scorings are in an envelope which I think the administrative offices have in their possession. It's sealed from that, but Councilor Godey can correct me if there was any difference on that, but we completed that scoring, we discussed the results and the comparisons of that, and on the basis of that, and also the advice of Councilor Brunfeld, that notwithstanding the deadline in the advertisements, that we, the city, as an employer, have the inherent authority to sort of terminate the outside advertisements and proceed to view the position as a promotion, and as an employer that we could consider that promotion matter at this time rather than waiting till after December 9th. And Counselor, is that accurate?
Right, sure. I mean, if, really you have complete, authority and discretion as the hiring body or as the hiring authority, if in the process of looking for candidates for this position, if you have internal candidates who've applied, and assuming an internal candidate or candidates meet the minimum qualifications for the position as posted, the city council does have complete discretion to go ahead at any time and promote an internal candidate to the position. So if you were to do that, you have no legal obligation to completely follow through and finish the external process. You've started it, clearly you've advertised, you've sought external applicants, but if in the midst of that process, the hiring, the committee that's been doing the legwork on this, if you have found that you have an internal candidate that meets the minimum qualifications, that you as a committee feel should be given the opportunity to be promoted into the position, you can bring that recommendation forward to the council. The council, obviously, it's up to the council to make that decision on whether to promote the internal candidate and essentially terminate the process at that point because you are promoting an internal candidate. So that it's really, your options are, my understanding is the committee is probably making that recommendation tonight. And if that's the case, the council can go ahead and act on that recommendation, or if the council decides that you want to still consider external applicants, the council has that option too. It's really up to you. But from a legal standpoint, you are allowed to go ahead and promote internally if you want to do that at any time.
Well, I think, Councilor Godey, have I missed anything in laying the foundation for the recommendation? Or I think I tried to cover the highlights anyway of what we've gone through, and it would have been nice to have a third or fourth member, but nevertheless, we've shouldered that responsibility. All right, so on the basis of all that background and information, our committee of two is recommending to the council that we promote Kimberly Behrens, our accounting clerk, to the position of city clerk, not city administrator, city clerk. And that to implement that, we'd recommend no.
Is it actually clerk treasurer?
I'm
Or
sorry.
is it just city clerk or is it clerk treasurer? The actual title of the
Clerk
position?
treasurer is what we apply.
All right,
Yeah,
so
that's
clerk,
fine.
clerk treasurer, I'm
All
sorry.
right, yeah.
All right. So our thought was to share that recommendation with the whole council. If the council found that acceptable, we wouldn't recommend making a hiring decision tonight. What we'd recommend is that we then schedule a special meeting of the council with the candidate and go over her concerns, expectations, and assessments of the position, and our expectations and concerns, and try to lay the foundation for a productive work relationship and environment moving forward. So I guess I'd entertain, I don't know if we have to make the motion to accept the recommendation. If we're the committee, I guess I'd prefer if the councilors are moved to accept the recommendation, that we could then act on that to move to the next step, which would be that special meeting.
It is, under the rules of order, it is the prerogative of any council member to make the motion. I mean, I understand, I think the committee is wanting to maybe defer to the other council members to whether they support it or not, but technically, any council member will make the motion.
All right, so I'll make the motion to offer the promotional opportunity to accounting clerk Behrens and proceed in the manner that was described earlier to sort of cement that relationship. And is there a support for that motion?
I'll support it.
All right, so we have a motion and support on the table. So councilors, have we done what you wanted us to do, or?
Well, here's my thing. I know that when we talked with our past clerk treasurer, she had highly recommended that we get somebody with like some kind of project management, correct me if I'm wrong, or like some kind of water management or something that could help with all the projects and stuff that we were doing. So I'm just kind of curious, does Kimberly have project management or anything under her belt?
Well, I assume that's something that we could explore more at that next
So, I
meeting
mean,
to go in, but
That's just was one of my,
Sure.
I know that's one of the big concerns that
Yeah.
our last clerk treasurer had mentioned, that we should have somebody with some of those backgrounds. That's just something that stuck out with me,
Right.
so.
I think Clerk Dickinson was part of our initial, I know this was not a voting position, but she was part of the consultation at that meeting, and while she echoed, I think, some of your concerns, she didn't feel I was an obstacle in this, decision or that conclusion. Councilor Alcala, you?
How many external applications have we received for the position? We don't know.
We haven't
I
seen
don't,
them.
we don't.
So you're only considering
We-
internal? You can't, the next step would be is Kimberly has the qualifications, we could compare them to the other applicants and see if there's any additional candidates that would exceed her her qualifications.
Certainly another option. Councilor Hess, you're new to the ballgame here, but
He's not that new.
you've been a former councilor, so.
I still think we gotta look at all of them.
The external applications as well? It's not that we
Not
would
take anything
No,
away
wait from Kimberly.
anybody that's
Yeah.
Just
applied,
curious
but I
what
think
the
we gotta
pool
look
is.
at all of them.
So this decision from here out would be all the council people, not just our little hiring committee. Is that correct?
Is that the intent? Or-
That's what I.
Okay.
Just in terms of, the reason we were able to make this recommendation was that would make Kimberly a finalist, and the finalist names and can be discussed and everything. We'd have to go into a closed session, wouldn't we, Counselor, if we were to take additional applications and consider them before determining they were finalists?
Well, I mean, so normally what you'd have is, normally the scoring of applicants wouldn't be done at the full council level. Normally it would be done at a committee level or an administrative level. That's where you have the external applicants. Somebody has to go through those and score those to make sure that, essentially review the applications to see which candidates meet the minimum qualifications for the job and therefore can move on to the next step of the hiring process. A lot of times there will be essentially 3 steps to the hiring process. There's written applications are received, those have to be reviewed by somebody either at a staff level or a committee level. And that's more of kind of a quantifiable analysis to see whether the written applications as submitted, whether the applicant does in fact possess the minimum qualifications for the job. If they do, then you would take that group who've passed the first threshold, you might take that group and have them come in for interviews. Now, those interviews could be done by the full council, but of course, if they're done by the full council, that's got to be held at a public meeting. Or the interviews could be done at the committee level. And then once those interviews are done, again, you have another scoring process to score those interviews. And then whoever comes out as the top 2 or 3 candidates from that interview then is recommended as the finalists to the full city council. Those names then become public because they are finalists for the position, and then the full council would do the final interviews of the top, let's say, 2 or 3 finalists for the job. You would, again, have a scoring process that you would follow for the interviews, and then the council would ultimately make the final decision on which of the finalists would be offered the position. So if you're gonna, so if the council's decision tonight is to essentially deny the motion that's on the table and move on to wanting to consider external applicants along with Kimberly, then if that's what the direction the council takes, then I would recommend that once the deadline has come and gone, which is what is that?
Friday.
Yeah.
Friday.
So once Friday comes and goes, you have now you've got all of your external applications that have been submitted. I would recommend that the council direct the committee to score those and then determine, kind of lay out what you want to follow for a process. Yeah.
So once,
Yeah, I mean, you know, you can do it as a council as far as scoring, but it normally isn't done that way simply because it's too clumsy.
Yeah.
Because because if you're gonna do it as a group, it has to be a public meeting.
Mhm.
There's no basis to close the meeting under state statute. And then you're sitting here scoring applicants, and these are people who are not yet finalists for the job.
Yeah.
So then you get into data practices issues as well, because some of those names might become public. So the scoring of the external applicants should be done at an administrative or committee level.
Okay. And then the hiring we could do at a council meeting.
Finalists typically would be done by the full governing body, yep. Yeah.
so if the committee were then to score and decide upon, say, 2 finalists, or 3, you know, whatever the case may be, those finalists would be identified and recommended to the council for consideration as finalists, is that?
That's correct. However you want, whatever steps you want to put into the process.
All right.
You can have the committee do the scoring of the external I mean, I don't know how many applicants you're gonna have, but, you know, for a top position in city government, you might wanna have 2 stages of interviews. You might wanna have an initial stage of interview that's done more at, you know, so you might be interviewing, depending on how many applicants you get who meet the minimum qualifications, including Kimberly, you might have 5 or 6 people who are who meet the threshold of having the minimum qualifications for the job. So you might advance all those folks for an initial round of interviews, and then have those interviews conducted, and then from that, it's narrowed down to 2 or 3 who would then be brought forward to the city council as recommended finalists for the position.
So
So that's one way you could do it, or, you know, the committee could meet and score the applicant, use a scoring method, an objective scoring method, and, you know, basically score the applicants, and then based upon the scores, of course, you have to get a certain score to be considered having the minimum qualifications for the job, but then you could also score the applicants, and from the scoring, you could deem, say, 3 finalists for the job, and then those would be the only 3 finalists who would actually be interviewed. But they would be declared finalists. So there's a couple of different ways you can do it. So if you vote down this motion that's currently on the table, then the council may want to give some direction on that final step, that final process that you're going to invoke.
We'll certainly appreciate your being here to kind of guide us through. We know it's a delicate and intricate sort of process, and we want to try to proceed in the best way. In support of the motion, I just want to say that it wasn't a matter that Kimberly was qualified. She was enormously qualified in a lot of the pertinent categories that came out of the position or job description. I think everybody brings different talents to the table, and part of our job as an employer, I think, is to try to help new employees in particular, but employees generally, to improve their scope and quality of job services. So I'd like to share in the illusion that, or the fantasy that we would find a candidate who ideally fits, you know, what the city needs in terms of what Councilor Joff's mentioned too, in terms of program development, who also has the other pertinent experiences. I guess I'm getting somewhat skeptical in my old age or something, knowing that I perceive to be the field that's out there, but I admit we have not considered other applicants, and I think both Councilor Godey and I fully felt on the basis of all these things that this could be a good, wise decision for the city, which doesn't mean that there isn't potentially a better decision. Yeah, I guess that's the best I can say.
One other thing I would just want to say too as an idea, if you're going to go the process of the scoring and interviews and considering external applicants, you have a committee formed, but one other thing you may want to do, you see this sometimes, like, for example, in police officer hirings too, they'll do this. When you get into the actual scoring of the applications, and then maybe if you're gonna do an initial round of interviews, bring in a third person from the outside who has kind of experience in this area. That's an idea. For example, you could have Jeff Jacobson from Biwabic maybe be willing to sit as a third party of the committee, a third member of the committee, to work with the committee in scoring the applications and doing the interviews. So you'd have a third member of the committee who would be doing the scoring process. Or Britt C. Bennis, who's, obviously a very qualified now city administrator in Virginia, who, obviously has a very strong connection to the Aurora community. She probably would be willing to, I'm sure she would be willing to volunteer her time or help out.
Well, we'd be sure to
yeah.
quote you on that.
I probably got a phone call from her and then, so, all right, so.
Mitch, I got a question.
Yeah. So then just a suggestion.
When you do these scoring, you take all the names off of them, right? Off the application?
I mean, you don't know, you don't necessarily have to, because they're not, at this point, they're not public information.
No, but I
But you
mean-
could,
Yeah.
to do a blind scoring,
Doing the scoring, you shouldn't be
yeah,
looking at
Yeah.
names either.
I
right,
think whenever I've done it,
Yeah.
there's never been names for
No.
me to
Yeah.
look at.
yeah. So you could,
And that's
that's fine, I mean, it's not,
For this committee, as they look at the external applications, is that,
No names.
that the names be removed.
All right. I can see Director Thuringer's.
I have to go shut a pump off.
Oh, okay, well, we know the demands of business. Well,
Not so
I would offer
subtle,
my
right?
help, but I think I'd be more of a detriment than a help, so we and I won't go look into it. I don't wanna get in the way, so.
good luck with that.
Yeah.
So, let's see. Well, we have the motion and support on the table. We've made our recommendation as a committee. I can anticipate how the vote would go, but I think procedurally, we should probably vote on the
Yes.
motion and then entertain if it doesn't pass, that we entertain a motion to proceed otherwise. So, all right, so is further discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
All right, so that motion fails. Now, could we have a motion? I don't know if council.
However the council wants to proceed, whoever wants to make a motion to direct the next step of the process.
All right, well, good news is we have not terminated the announcements or the solicitation of applications, so that process obviously remains in effect and is proceeding. From the administrative office, have there been many, if any, applications received?
I wouldn't say many. I wouldn't ever
I
define.
mean, more than a half dozen, or?
No, I wouldn't say more than a
Well,
half
I think
dozen.
that actually there is.
I mean, excluding your own.
Yeah, don't.
No,
Yeah, don't.
no, I know, and
The internal
I haven't had my hands on them at all because we were told that we couldn't, but I think Jen had told me that in that sealed packet in the vault that there is 6, maybe?
And so I would say then what we've received since when we reopened and labeled, I guess, from what I would say, we probably received 4, so maybe 10. I haven't looked in the sealed, it's very sealed, I mean, it's like
Maybe.
duct taped and, so I haven't tried to open that package, but,
I
So-
think Stephanie said there was 5 at the very beginning,
In the s-
in
even
the sealed one?
before.
so I would say probably we're sitting around 10 applications.
All right.
Okay.
So I think that helps to give some kind of dimensions to
It's a
the
manageable
task
number.
before.
Yeah.
One
Yeah.
or another.
Yeah.
All right, well.
You know, we lost our third person on our little committee, and I had called Jim Loxo, and he said at this time he wasn't interested, but it would be nice to have a third person on the committee.
I wonder, what about having Chief Suler? He's always a good,
He's,
he would be a good person to have.
Yeah.
He's gone through many hiring processes, and he has
That
to
would-
work with our city administrators, clerk
Yeah.
treasurers, whomever, he might be a good one to have
Yeah,
on the committee.
I'm always surprised,
Well-
well, not surprised is the wrong word, but impressed with how smart he is.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can talk to them in the morning, I'll see him in the morning.
Just
Yeah.
selfishly, I enjoy the councilor's suggestion of Brett
Yes,
from the
I do.
standpoint, I wonder if we couldn't look at a committee that,
You could have both of them. You could
Yeah,
have
you
both
can have
of them.
both of them on there.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that, and if that didn't work for her situation, yeah, a committee of 4 might be,
Yeah.
Kim might be more flexible to be able to meet for certain
Maybe.
times of the
Yeah.
day.
yeah.
Yeah, well, and we'll probably have to be flexible with her Virginia schedule too, so that might be a,
My wife
Problem,
might-
but-
My wife might be interested too, she only had 42 years of that.
Yeah,
Yes, true.
yeah, true.
All right, so, obviously the floor is open, but I can envision the form the motion could take, but I don't know whether I should be making that.
I'll make a
motion.
motion that we look at all candidates, all applicants, and the committee will make a decision from that. I would say down to, if you got 10, probably down to 5, and then go from there.
So bring 5 to the council?
The top 5.
Top
Top
5?
5,
That's,
does that sound good?
Well, the only thing,
That's half of it.
at that point, then, they wouldn't be open meeting, we could use what, pseudonyms or something?
No, if they're
Yeah.
declared finalists, they're
Yeah,
public.
they're
That's
finalists.
public.
Even if they're 5? I thought
Yeah.
it was just down to 3.
Well, 5, I think that's a pretty big number for finalists.
I think 3. Would you amend it to
Yeah.
3, Richard?
that's 70% off.
Oh.
That's a wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful sale.
I think 3 would be a more standard number.
I'll support Richard's motion
Yeah.
All right, 4-3?
for 3.
Okay.
3
Okay.
finalists.
All right, so let's start with what the plan is, in other words, the
Okay.
motion. And has there been support for that?
Yes, Talisha supported.
All right, it's been moved and supported to proceed to that next step. Any further discussion? All right, if not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Now, in terms of it became an issue of the composition of the committee. Is there a motion to ask city clerk, or city administrator, what is Britt?
City administrator.
City administrator, Britt and Chief Suler to become members of the committee?
I will make that motion.
It's
I'll
been
second
moved
it.
and supported. Excuse me. All right, any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed. So we have a new plan. All right. And I guess we'll anxiously anticipate the close of business on Friday and find out what our pool of applicants is. Counselor, any matters you think we're
No,
leaving on the
I mean, I
table?
think, the committee, you'll have 2 or 3, 1 or 2 additional members of your committee who, as has been mentioned, are obviously very well versed as well in hiring procedures. So I think the committee can use its judgment as far as the scoring process and how you're gonna bring the 3 finalists, whoever those may be, bring those forward to the council for the final interview process. Final interview and selection process. of the
Do
3
we need to
finalists.
make a motion as to who is going to contact these people? I know in the
No, I
past-
think that can be rested within, I think, the committee's
Okay,
Okay.
work.
Okay.
They'll have that judgment and
Okay.
discretion to be able
perfect.
to lay out those protocols.
Well, I'll anxiously await the wise counsel of our new committee members there. I'm assuming that Dan and I will continue on the committee, is that part of it? All right.
We'll let you stay.
We'll try to be there.
If Britt's a little frustrated that I offered up her services for free, I'll buy her a gift card.
All right.
Okay.
sounds
So,
good.
I do have one other business that came up, so don't
Okay.
get ready too quick, but it
And our
should be quick.
Committee has one additional thing too.
Oh.
Is this still on the?
Nope, totally different subject, so.
So in addition to our efforts that we've outlined before there, we also have reached out to the League of Minnesota Cities consultant listing that Steph had solicited from LMC before she left. She had winnowed it down to from other candidates either who were recommended but unavailable, or she felt were not really suited for the situation. But we did, Dan and I spoke by phone with Jerry Bonsack, who has about, I think, 30 years of experience, both as a city administrator, but more recently, he's been interim city administrator for Montgomery. And let's see, I'm trying to think if we've got all the interim for Aiken, Chisholm, Pine City, Montgomery. He's been a planning consultant for Breezy Point. He's been a municipal consultant for Placid Lake, and assumed, in other words, a variety of relationships on a short-term basis with communities to try to draw from his expertise to kind of provide sometimes hands-on experience in some situations, but otherwise more of a administrative structure advisory capacity. So I guess he had to get through the hunting season before he was available, but he now apparently is available. And I, just personally speaking, I was quite impressed also with him when we spoke with him.
Right.
I guess what I liked is he set boundaries. He said, I don't deal with grants, for instance. And he said, that's an expertise outside grants. And he also indicated that kind of his proposal was to do maybe 2 days a week where he would be here.
Consecutive.
2 consecutive days per week, thinking that he could get the most out of that without going much further and give him in his personal life. So he'd be staying overnight one night, and he quoted hourly rates that he's had between $70 per hour and $120 per hour. We didn't discuss or make any commitments on something like that. I gather that neither he nor the city, if we were to enlist his services, would be obligated to continue the relationship if that didn't prove to be valuable. But it's sort of distilling out all these things, and Councilor Godey can speak for yourself there. The thought we had was, how could we lose by having an experienced set of eyes come in and hear from Lindsay and Kimberly, maybe even talk to staff, talk to some other staff members, and in light of all this amazing background and experience, sort of distill out and say, well, you might be able to do this job better, with such and such tweaks. They may be as simple as communication skills, or it may be systems, it may be supplemental personnel like we've talked about, of kind of an interim to help out in the clerk's office. I mean, the options are all on the table, and rather than trying to decide it amongst the family, trying to go outside a little bit.
Quick question on this. So is $70 to $120 an hour, does this include housing and traveling? Or is that an additional cost that we would need to know about?
I got the impression housing would be an addition. Correct?
Yeah, I would say that's
So
his base fee.
Base
I'm
fee?
sure he's gonna charge a lodging.
Mileage.
And mileage?
Yeah, and
The only-
stipend
And then
expenses,
and
yeah.
my other question would be, did we check to see how it worked in the city of Chisholm and how it worked with these other cities? So before we went any further, I would like to check in with these cities and see what their thoughts were.
Was it valuable?
Was it valuable
Yeah.
to them?
We can, in particular,
Well,
go ahead.
One thing is, now with this new search, it depends on who we decide to hire and when they would be on board, if it's needed or not. Do you know what,
Yep.
I mean, we thought it would be a good transition, but it might end up we're hiring somebody that's just as qualified as he is. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, a valid point and everything. Yeah, if I were going to look to any community initially, I'd contact the Placid Lake, where he served as a municipal consultant, as opposed to an acting administrator, and
I
therefore
would want-
probably
Chisholm.
I would pick Chisholm.
Chisholm.
I'd pick them
I'd
both.
check them
What?
all.
Why not?
I would check on all of them.
Well,
You have a
we
full-
have daytime jobs
There
here.
it is.
A volunteer. A volunteer.
All right, anyway,
Okay.
so we'll try to reach out and make some more contacts on that, but I
Okay.
think it was important to share that, contact that information and that potential resource with the council.
So when you reach out and contact, so I know that they put references on, nobody's gonna put a name of somebody that's gonna give them a bad reference. I would highly recommend, check to see some other people that they've worked with and check with them as well. That's just my 2 cents, but can we do that? I think we.
Well, I don't know, this is already a very long list, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
as opposed to, yeah. Well, maybe,
I don't know, is that something that a person can do, Mitch? Is that?
Sure, you can make any ask,
Okay.
you know, whether the other party will volunteer
Oblige,
information
yeah.
is, up to them. but-
I know when I was last in the state employment, there was a conventional wisdom that you don't put in writing from a former employer anything bad about the employee. I don't know, so
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's a constraint unless you buy them a few drinks or something over the side and find out something.
Yeah.
All right, so, let's see, Lindsay.
Yes,
two.
so it actually was scheduled, fortunately, Stephanie had her emails forwarded to a separate email, but Talisha will be going to the Tri-City meeting. If you're able to go, it looks like they are trying to schedule it for December 13th at 5 p.m. Stephanie was on that board as well. We should make a motion, staff member should attend 5 p.m. and accompany Talisha as
This
every
is
other
the
city.
Tri-City ambulance?
I believe so, yes. Tri-City, it's with Mel, the EMS director
Yeah.
from White Lakes, so I believe it's the ambulance, yes. She just put Tri-City meetings, so, yes.
So
I didn't know if
we
more was
need a
discussed.
council designated representative to go to that meeting.
Yes,
Talisha.
to replace, well, Talisha's
She's
on
already
it.
on it, so we need-
Staff, yep, Stephanie also was supposed to be going as well.
Okay.
So I talked with Jody, and Jody said she would recommend making a motion to have staff go, someone go, to be with Talisha as well.
Well,
Okay.
anticipating both of you will continue to be with us in the near future, and anyway, either one of you want to volunteer for that, or,
I had told Stephanie that I would go.
all right. Is that all right?
I didn't even know if it was the
All right, so is there a
Tri-Village
motion
meeting or not, so yeah.
to designate Kimberly as our representative to that meeting of the Tri-City? I'll move.
I'll
Support.
support.
All right, moved and supported. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Any other business we have to conduct? All right, if not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
Oh,
Moved.
support.
Moved and supported. It's, according to the clock, 7:04. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we stand adjourned. Thank you, Council.
I didn't use any ink.
Did you?
I didn't write a single note.
Are we? Mitch,